Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the live studios in the Haven, Hive, southeast coast of England. As I look out the window, I can see in the distance the English Channel. Very peaceful place. Krishna has brought me here and is protecting me in so many ways I can't describe. But I'm not idle. I have this new service to sit on the panel of the Revisions Review panel, organized by the BBT trustees. And it's quite engaging and quite important for our movement. So I feel very honored and privileged. And of course we have these readings, which daily I'm getting different messages from different devotees from around the world who say that it's helping them a lot. So this is my life. My life belongs to you, all of you, out there in cyberspace, wherever you are, who are listening regularly to these readings of the Caitanya-caritämrta. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had very strong, affectionate feelings towards Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, as did our Srila Prabhupada. He considered it the perfect Shastra and also his life and soul. So once Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in order to glorify Sri Caitanya-caritämrta in a very poetic way, not to be taken literally, at least not all of it, he said this: in due course, Mahäprabhu, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam. But under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it is subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vinda Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vinda. So we reached the last chapter of the Ädi-lilä, chapter 17, the descriptions of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in his youth. So we've already heard about how he delivered the Kashmiri Pandit, Digvijay. Now he's beginning to, he went to see Gaya and met his spiritual master there when he was doing Shraddha for his father. And he took initiation from Ishwarapuri. And he immediately began to experience full-blown ecstatic symptoms of love for Krishna. Of course, he's Krishna in the mood of Radharani, so he never forgot these things, but still. So this is the beginning of the Sankirtan movement, when he came back and started to teach his students in a different way than anybody had ever taught before, teaching grammar, based only on Krishna and Krishna's pastimes. So the students became expert at Sanskrit and at the same time became devotees of Krishna. Now he's beginning to call his eternal associates together and revealing himself to them. And he's chanting now in the house of Srivas Thakur. He did this for a whole year. But the doors were closed to anyone who was not a pure devotee. And if anyone tried to sneak them in, Lord Chaitanya would immediately detect it. Something's wrong here. I can't taste the full ecstasy. Okay, clean, search the house. One time they found one Brahmana in a basket. And one of the devotees had put him in the basket and said, just stay here and then you'll be able to hear Lord Chaitanya. Anyway, when Lord Chaitanya asked, the devotee said, oh, this is a very pure Brahman, he only drinks milk. And Lord Chaitanya said, do you think he's going to see me do kirtan just by drinking milk? Anyway, so like this, the kirtan's going on and the resentment is building up in the non-devotees. They want to come, and those who are envious, they want to come and be there and they can't, therefore they're getting angry. So now we're beginning with text 37 and 38. One night, while kirtan was going on inside Srivas Thakur's house, a Brahmana named Gopala-Chapala, the chief of the non-believers, who was talkative and very rough in his speech, placed all the paraphernalia for worshipping the goddess Durga outside Srivas Thakur's door. Purport. This Brahmana, Gopala-Chapala, wanted to defame Srivas Thakur by proving that he was actually a Shakta, or a worshipper of Bhavani, the goddess Durga, but was externally posing as a Vaishnava. In Bengal, there is perpetual competition between the devotees of goddess Kali and the devotees of Lord Krishna. Generally, Bengalis, especially those who are meat-eaters and drunkards, are very much attached to worshipping the goddess Durga, Kali, Shitala, and Chandi. Such devotees who are known as Shaktas, or worshippers of the Shakti Tattva, are always envious of Vaishnavas. Since Srivas Thakur was a well-known and respected Vaishnava in Navadvip, Gopala-Chapala wanted to reduce his prestige by bringing him down to the platform of the Shaktas. Therefore, outside Srivas Thakur's door, he placed various paraphernalia for worshipping Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, such as a red flower, a plantain leaf, a pot of wine, and reddish sandalwood paste. In the morning, when Srivas Thakur saw all this paraphernalia in front of his door, he called for the respectful gentlemen of the neighborhood and showed them that at night he was worshipping Bhavani. Very sorry, these gentlemen called for a sweeper to cleanse the place and purify it by sprinkling water and cow dung there. This incident concerning Gopala-Chapala is not mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Text 39. On the upper portion of the plantain leaf, he placed such paraphernalia for worship as Odapula, turmeric, vermilion, red sandalwood, and rice. Text 40. He placed a pot of wine beside all this, and in the morning, when Srivas Thakur opened his door, he saw this paraphernalia. Text 41. Srivas Thakur called for all the respectable gentlemen of the neighborhood and smilingly addressed them as follows. 42. Gentlemen, every night I worship goddess Bhavani. Since the paraphernalia for the worship is present here, now all you respectable Brahmanas and members of the higher castes can understand my position. Purport. According to the Vedic system, there are 4 castes: the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. And below them are the Panchamas, literally members of the 5th group, who are lower than the Shudras. The higher castes, the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, and even the Vaishyas, were known as Brahmana Sajjana. The Brahmanas especially were known as Sajjana, or respectable gentlemen who guided the entire society. If there were disputes in the village, people would approach these respectable Brahmanas to settle them. Now, it is very difficult to find such Brahmanas and Sajjanas, and therefore every village and town is so disrupted that there is no peace and happiness anywhere. To revive a fully cultured civilization, the scientific division of society into Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras must be introduced all over the world. Unless some people are trained as Brahmanas, there cannot be peace in human society. Text 43. Then all the assembled gentlemen explained, "What is this? What is this? Who has performed such mischievous activities? Who is that sinful man?" 44. They called for a sweeper, Hadi, who threw all the items of worship far away and cleansed the place by mopping it with a mixture of water and cow dung. Purport. The men in Vedic society who engage in public sanitary activities like picking up stool and sweeping the street are called Hadis. Sometimes they are untouchable, especially when engaged in their profession. Yet such Hadis also have the right to become devotees. This is established by Sri Bhagavad Gita 9:32, where the Lord declares, "Mami partha vyapashritya yepisyu papa yonaya striyo vaishyas tata shudras tepiyanti padam gatim." O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, Shudras, workers, can attain the supreme destination. There are many untouchables of the lower caste in India, but according to Vaishnava principles, everyone is welcome to accept this Krishna consciousness movement on the spiritual platform of life, and thus be freed from trouble. Neither equality nor fraternity is possible on the material platform. I'll repeat that again, please. Thank you. Neither equality nor fraternity is possible on the material platform. When Lord Chaitanya declares Trinadapi Sunichena Tarodapi Suhishnuna, he indicates that one must be above the material conception of life. When one thoroughly understands that he is not the material body, but is a spiritual soul, he is even humbler than a man of the lower castes, for he is spiritually elevated. Such humility, in which one thinks himself lower than the grass, is called sunichatva. And being more tolerant than a tree is called sahishnutva. Forbearance. Being situated in devotional service, not caring for the material conception of life, is called amanitva. Indifference to material respect. Yet a devotee thus situated is called manada, for he is prepared to give honor to others without hesitation. Mahatma Gandhi started the Harijana movement to purify the untouchables, but he was a failure because he thought that no one could become a Harijana, a personal associate of the Lord, through some kind of material adjustment. I'll say that again. Mahatma Gandhi started the Harijana movement to purify the untouchables, but he was a failure because he thought that one could become a Harijana, a personal associate of the Lord, through some kind of material adjustment. That is not possible. Unless one fully realizes that he is not the body, but is a spiritual soul, there is no question of his becoming a Harijan. Those who do not follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his disciplic succession cannot distinguish between matter and spirit, and therefore all their ideas are but a mixed up hodgepodge of problems. They are virtually lost in the bewildering network of Maya Devi. Text 45. After 3 days, leprosy attacked Gopala Chapala, and blood oozed from the sores all over his body. Text 46. Incessantly covered with germs and insects biting him all over his body, Gopala Chapala felt unbearable pain. His entire body burned in distress. 47. Since leprosy is an infectious disease, Gopala Chapala left the village to sit down on the bank of the Ganges underneath a tree. One day, however, he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passing by and spoke to him as follows. My dear nephew, I am your maternal uncle in our village relationship. Please see how greatly this attack of leprosy has afflicted me. Text 49. As an incarnation of God, you are delivering so many fallen souls. I am also a greatly unhappy fallen soul. Kindly deliver me by your mercy. Purport. It appears that although Gopala Chapala was sinful, talkative, and insulting, he nevertheless had the qualification of simplicity. Thus he believed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who had come to deliver all fallen souls, and he appealed for his own deliverance, seeking the mercy of the Lord. He did not know, however, that the deliverance of the fallen souls, the fallen, does not consist of curing their bodily diseases, although it is also a fact that when a man is delivered from material clutches, his material bodily diseases are automatically cured. Gopala Chapala simply wanted to be delivered from the bodily sufferings of leprosy. But Sri Chaitanya, although accepting his sincere appeal, wanted to inform him of the real cause of suffering. Text 50. Hearing this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared greatly angry, and in that angry mood, he spoke some words, chastising him. Text 51. O sinful person, envious of pure devotees, I shall not deliver you. Rather, I shall have you bitten by these germs for many millions of years. Purport. We should note herein that all our sufferings in this material world, especially from disease, are due to our sinful activities. And of all sinful activities, actions directed against a pure devotee out of sheer envy are considered extremely severe. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted Gopala Chapala to understand the cause of his suffering. Any person who disturbs a pure devotee engaged in broadcasting the holy name of the Lord is certainly punished like Gopala Chapala. This is the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As we shall see, one who offends a pure devotee can never satisfy Chaitanya Mahaprabhu unless and until he sincerely regrets his offense and thus rectifies it. Text 52. You have made Srivas Thakur appear to have been worshipping the goddess Bhavani. Simply for this offense, you will have to fall down into hellish life for 10 million births. Purport. There are many tantric followers who, wishing to eat meat and drink wine, practice the black art of worshipping the goddess Bhavani in a crematorium. Such fools also consider this Bhavani Puja to be as good as worship of Lord Krishna in devotional service. But such abominable tantric activities performed by so-called swamis and yogis are herein condemned by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He declares that such Bhavani Puja for drinking wine and eating meat quickly plunges one into hellish life. The method of worship itself is already hellish, and its results must also be hellish, and nothing more. Many rascals say that whatever way one accepts, one will ultimately reach Brahman. Yet we can see from this verse how such persons reach Brahman. Brahman spreads everywhere, but appreciation of Brahman in different objects leads to different results. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.11, the Lord says, Yayatam mam prapadyante tangs tataiva bhajamyaham. I reward everyone according to his surrender unto me. Mayavadis certainly realize Brahman in certain aspects, but realization of Brahman in the aspects of wine, women, and meat is not the same realization of Brahman that devotees achieve by chanting, dancing, and eating prasadam. Mayavadi philosophers, being educated in paltry knowledge, think all sorts of Brahman realization one and the same, and do not consider varieties. But although Krishna is everywhere, by his inconceivable potency, he is simultaneously not everywhere. Thus, the Brahman realization of the tantric cult is not the same Brahman realization as that of pure devotees. Unless one reaches the highest point of Brahman realization, Krishna consciousness, he is punishable. All people, except Krishna conscious devotees, are to some proportion pashandis, or demons, and thus they are punishable by the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, as stated below. Text 53. I have appeared in this incarnation to kill the demons, pashandis, and after killing them, to preach the cult of devotional service. Purport. Lord Chaitanya's mission is the same as that of Lord Krishna, which he states in the Bhagavad Gita 4, 7, and 8. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanhir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma sangstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself, in order to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I advent myself, millennium after millennium. As explained here, the real purpose of an incarnation of Godhead is to kill the atheists and maintain the devotees. He does not say, like so many rascal incarnations, that atheists and devotees are on the same platform. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu or Lord Sri Krishna, the real personality of Godhead, does not advocate such an idea. Atheists are punishable, whereas devotees are to be protected. Atheists are punishable, whereas devotees are to be protected. To maintain this principle is the mission of all avatars, or incarnations. One must therefore identify an incarnation by his activities, not by popular votes or mental concoctions. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu gave protection to devotees and killed many demons in the course of his preaching work. He specifically mentioned that the Mayavadi philosophers are the greatest demons. Therefore he warned all others not to hear the Mayavad philosophy. Mayavadi Bhashya Shunile Haya Sarvanash. Simply by hearing the Mayavad interpretation of the Shastras, one is doomed. C.C. Madhya 6, 169. Text 54. After saying this, the Lord left to take his bath in the Ganges, and that sinful man did not give up his life, but continued to suffer. Purport. It appears that an offender to a Vaishnava continues to suffer and does not give up his life. We have actually seen that a great Vaishnava aparadi continuously suffered so much that it was difficult for him to move, and yet he did not die. Text 55, 56. When Sri Chaitanya, after accepting the renounced order of life, went to Jagannath Puri and then came back to the village of Kulia, upon his return, that sinful man took shelter at the Lord's lotus feet. The Lord, being merciful, gave him instructions for his benefit. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his Anubhashya, has given the following note in connection with the village Kulia. The village originally known as Kulia has developed into what is now the city of Navadvip. In various authorized books, like the Bhakti Ratnakara, Caitanya-caritämrta Mahakavya, Caitanya-candrodaya Nataka, and Chaitanya Bhagavat, it is mentioned that the village of Kulia is on the western side of the Ganges. Even now, within the area known as Koladvip, there is a place known as Kuliara Gunja and a place called Kuliara Daha, both within the jurisdiction of the present municipality of Navadvip. In the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the two villages on the western side of the Ganges, named Kulia and Pahadapur, both belong to the jurisdiction of Bahiradvip. At that time, the place on the eastern side of the Ganges, now known as Antardvip, was known as Navadvip. At Sri Mayapur, that place is still known as Dviperamat. There is another place of the name Kulia, named Kanchadapada, but it is not the same Kulia mentioned here. It cannot be accepted as Aparada Bhajanera Pada, or the place where the offense was excused, for that occurred in the above-mentioned Kulia on the western side of the Ganges. For business reasons, many envious persons oppose excavation of the real place, and sometimes they advertise unauthorized places as the authorized one. Text 57 and 58. You have committed an offense at the lotus feet of Srivas Thakur, the Lord said. First, you must go there and beg for his mercy, and then if he gives you his blessings, and you do not commit such sins again, you will be freed from these reactions. Text 59. Then the Brahmana Gopala Chapala went to Srivas Thakur and took shelter of his lotus feet. And by Srivas Thakur's mercy, he was freed from all sinful reactions. Text 60. Another Brahmana came to see the kirtan performance, but the door was closed and he could not enter the hall. He returned home with an unhappy mind. But on the next day he met Lord Chaitanya on the bank of the Ganges and spoke to him. That Brahmana was expert in talking harshly and cursing others. Thus he broke his sacred thread and declared, I shall now curse you, for your behavior has greatly aggrieved me. Text 63. The Brahmana cursed the Lord. You shall be bereft of all material happiness. When the Lord heard this, he felt great jubilation within himself. Text 64. Any faithful person who hears of this Brahmanas cursing Lord Chaitanya is delivered from all Brahminical curses. Haribol! Congratulations, everybody. I'll read it again just in case you were out of the room for a second and missed it. Any faithful person who hears of this Brahmanas cursing Lord Chaitanya is delivered from all Brahminical curses. Hare Krishna. Purport. One should know with firm conviction that the Lord, being transcendental, is never subject to any curse or benediction. Only ordinary living entities are subjected to curses and punishments of Yamaraj. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is beyond such punishments and benedictions. When one understands this fact with faith and love, he personally becomes free from all curses uttered by Brahmanas or anyone else. This incident is not mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Text 65. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed Mukunda Datta with punishment and in that way vanquished all his mental depression. Purport. Mukunda Datta was once forbidden to enter the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because of his mixing with the Mayavadi impersonalists. When Lord Chaitanya manifested his Mahaprakash, he called all the devotees one after another and blessed them, while Mukunda Datta stood outside the door. The devotees informed the Lord that Mukunda Datta was waiting outside, but the Lord replied, I shall not soon be pleased with Mukunda Datta, for though he explains devotional service among devotees, he then goes to Mayavadis to hear from them the Yoga Vaishishta Ramayana, which is full of Mayavad philosophy. For this I am greatly displeased with him. Hearing the Lord speak in that way, Mukunda Datta, standing outside, was exceedingly glad that the Lord would at some time be pleased with him, although he was not pleased at that moment. But when the Lord understood that Mukunda Datta was going to give up the association of the Mayavadis for good, he was pleased, and he at once called to see Mukunda. Thus he delivered him from the association of the Mayavadis and gave him the association of pure devotees. Text 66. Lord Chaitanya respected Advaita Acharya as his spiritual master, but Advaita Acharya Prabhu was greatly aggrieved by such behavior. Text 67. Thus he whimsically began to explain the path of philosophical speculation, and the Lord in his anger, seemingly disrespected him. 68. At that time Advaita Acharya was greatly pleased. The Lord understood this, and he was somewhat ashamed, but he offered Advaita Acharya his benediction. Purport. Advaita Acharya was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri, Ishwara Puri's spiritual master. Therefore, Ishwara Puri, the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was Advaita Acharya's godbrother. In view of this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu treated Advaita Acharya as his spiritual master. But Sri Advaita Acharya did not like this behavior of Lord Chaitanya, for he wanted to be treated as his eternal servant. Advaita Prabhu's aspiration was to be a servant of the Lord, not his spiritual master. He therefore devised a plan to antagonize the Lord. He began to explain the path of philosophical speculation in the midst of some unfortunate Mayavadis. And when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard about this, he immediately went there and in a very angry mood began to beat Advaita Acharya. At that time, Advaita Acharya, greatly pleased, began to dance, saying, "Just see how my desire has now been fulfilled. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to treat me honorably for so long, but now he is treating me neglectfully. This is my reward. His affection for me is so great that he wanted to save me from the hands of the Mayavadis." Hearing this statement, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was somewhat ashamed, but he was very pleased with Advaita Acharya. Text 69. Murari Gupta was a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra. When Lord Chaitanya heard Lord Ramachandra's glories from his mouth, he immediately wrote on his forehead, Ramadas, the eternal servant of Lord Ramachandra. Text 70. Once, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the house of Sridhar after kirtan and drank water from his damaged iron pot. Then he bestowed his benediction upon all the devotees according to their desires. Purport. After the mass Nagara Sankirtana and protest against the magistrate Chand Kazi, the Kazi was converted to a devotee. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned with his Sankirtan party to the house of Sridhar, and Chand Kazi followed him. All the devotees rested there for some time and drank water from Sridhar's damaged iron pot. The Lord accepted the water because the pot belonged to a devotee. Chand Kazi then returned home. The place where they rested is still situated on the northeastern side of Mayapur, and it is known as Kirtan Vishramastan, the resting place of the Kirtan party. Text 71. After this incident, the Lord blessed Haridas Thakur and vanquished the offense of his mother at the home of Advaita Acharya. Purport. On the Mahaprakash day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Haridas Thakur and informed him that he was none other than an incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. When Vishwarupa took sannyas, Shachimata thought that Advaita Acharya had persuaded him to do so. Therefore she accused Advaita Acharya of this, and which was an offense, at his lotus feet. Later, Lord Chaitanya induced his mother to take the dust of Advaita Acharya's lotus feet, and thus her Vaishnava aparad was nullified. Text 72. Once, when the Lord explained the glories of the holy name to the devotees, some ordinary students who heard him fashioned their own interpretation. 73. When a student interpreted the glories of the holy name as a prayer of exaggeration, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, greatly unhappy, immediately warned everyone not to see the student's face henceforward. Purport. Once when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained the glories of the transcendental potency of the Lord's holy name, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one unfortunate student said that such glorification of the holy name was an exaggeration in the Shastras to induce people to take to it. In this way the student interpreted the glories of the holy name. This is called Artavad, and it is one of the 10 offenses at the lotus feet of the holy name of the Lord. There are many kinds of offenses, but the offense known as Nam Aparad, an offense at the lotus feet of the holy name, is extremely dangerous. The Lord therefore warned everyone not to see the face of the offender. The Lord immediately took a bath in the Ganges with all his clothes on, to teach everyone to avoid Sachinama Aparad. The holy name is identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no difference between the person God and his holy name. This is the absolute position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, one who distinguishes between the Lord and his name is called a Pashandi, or non-believer, an atheistic demon. Glorification of the holy name is glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should never attempt to distinguish between the Lord and his name, or interpret the glories of the holy name as mere exaggerations. Without even removing his garments, Lord Chaitanya took a bath in the Ganges with his companions. There he explained the glories of devotional service. Text 75. By following the paths of speculative philosophical knowledge, fruitive activity, or mystic yoga to control the senses, one cannot satisfy Krishna, the Supreme Lord. Unalloyed devotional service for Krishna is the only cause for the Lord's satisfaction. Text 76. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna said, "My dear Uddhava, neither through Astanga Yoga, the mystic yoga system to control the senses, nor through impersonal monism or an analytical study of the absolute truth, nor through study of the Vedas, nor through austerities, charity, or acceptance of sannyas, can one satisfy me as much as by developing unalloyed devotional service unto me." Purport. Karmis, jnanis, yogis, tapasvis, and students of Vedic literature who do not have Krishna consciousness simply beat around the bush and do not get any final profit because they have no clear knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nor do they have faith in approaching him by discharging devotional service, although everywhere such service is repeatedly emphasized, as it is in this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:14-20. The Bhagavad Gita 18:55 also declares, "Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yas chasmi tatpataha." One can understand the Supreme Personality of God, the Supreme Personality as he is, only by devotional service. If one wants to understand the Supreme Personality factually, he must take to the path of devotional service and not waste time in profitless austerity and penance. Elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita 12:5, the Lord confirms, "Klesho dikatadas te sham abhyakta sakta chetasam." For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. People who are attached to the impersonal feature of the Lord are obliged to take great trouble, yet nevertheless they cannot understand the absolute truth. As explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 1-11, "Brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabhyate." Unless one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of both Brahman and Paramatma, one is still in darkness about the absolute truth. And we'll stop here. 8 o'clock, almost. Hare Krishna. Any reflections from the exalted august assembly of devotees out there listening to the Caitanya-caritämrta.
First is something from Gopal Roy, Prabhu.
Haribol Gopal Roy.
He says, Dear Maharaj, I don't fully understand why Srivas Thakur went along with Gopal Chapala's envious prank. I can understand how a humble Vaishnava may ignore and pay no heed to such childish pranks. But why did the Thakur act as if it was him who worshipped Goddess Durga and take responsibility for the paraphernalia?
Well, the one key word in that pastime is smilingly. He got everybody together and he smilingly made this confession. So you notice, how did the village Brahmanas react? They immediately cleaned the place and said, who has done this nonsense? So he did it smilingly because he knew that they would not accept. And he was in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. He was a part of the plan to chastise the person who did it. So he did it smilingly because he knew it was the will of the Lord. That if the Lord thought he had offended him that way, that he would get his just reward and be delivered. Eventually he was. He knew all this. Therefore he was smiling. Srivas Thakur is not an ordinary person. And everybody knew that he was not an ordinary person. So there was never a second, not a moment, that any of the Brahmanas thought that he had done it. And he knew that they knew he had not done it. And therefore he just smiled. Okay? And then what happened? Finally, when Lord Chaitanya did explain to him what he had done, and then came back after he told him that he could suffer for millions of births, then when he surrendered, then he said, okay, you go to Srivas Thakur and you get his forgiveness and his blessings, and then the curse will be forgiven. And it was. Therefore, Srivas Thakur smiled. Therefore, the pastimes of the Lord and the Lord's pure devotees are difficult to understand because they know what's going to happen. They don't always know what's going to happen. Krishna can cover their knowledge of that also if he wants. But in this case, Srivas Thakur knew what was going to happen for sure. What else? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama,
Something from Yadutama.
Hare Krishna Yudutama Dasadikari.
He says, Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances and glories to Prabhupada. I don't remember where, but I've heard that Haridas Thakur was also an incarnation of Lord Brahma. Is this correct? If so, how can we understand that Haridas Thakur was both personalities?
He wasn't both personalities. He was an incarnation of Prahlad, but he adopted the mood of Lord Brahma. When it says that a person was this person and that person, it's not that they're two persons. It's that the mood of one person is dominant, but another mood is there also.
Something from Sudevi Dasi.
Haribol Sudevi.
Says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, hearing all this narration gives me such joy because the mercy of Lord Chaitanya is so sweet and encouraging me to continue trying and not be so hard on myself. Lord Chaitanya is so kind.
Yes, that is the tendency, is for us to be hard on ourselves and, yeah. That's the symptom of a devotee, pure devotee. But the real symptom is one has a taste for hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord.
Yadutama Prabhu says, thanks for clearing that up.
Hare Krishna.
And something from Vilas Manjari.
Haribol Vilas Manjari, a long time. Not so long, but gee, what time is it in Sydney now? It must be late, no? Or very, very early, one of the two.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. My reflection from today's reading is how even the punishment of the Lord is auspicious.
Yes, absolutely. Name dveshasti na priyaha. He is neither, no one is especially dear or especially repulsive to him. Name dveshasti na priyaha. Therefore, anybody who comes in contact with him gets benedicted. No difference between his punishment and his blessing. They're the same. But when the Lord hears about, his, intimate devotee, or what to speak of Lord Nityananda, his first expansion, becomes offended by someone, then he becomes like fire. He came to kill Jagai and Madai immediately. His Sudarshan Chakra was even invoked. But by the mercy of Lord Nityananda, when I think it was Jagai who, I don't remember, anyway, the other one that threw the pot, the other one saw how Lord Nityananda responded with humility. Never mind, you broke my head with the pot. It's not important. Just chant Hare Krishna. When he saw that, the level of his consciousness, he fell down at his feet. And then, just then, Lord Chaitanya came to kill both of them. And Madai, he wanted to hit him again, or the other one, which one it was. And the other brother appealed to him, no, please. This is not right. These not ordinary persons. And then he appealed to Lord Nityananda, and then Lord Nityananda intervenes to Lord Chaitanya, and he said, no, you can't kill them because they represent the population of the Kali Yuga. Everyone's going to be like this eventually, and you came not to kill them, but deliver them, to kill their mentality, their demoniac mentality. So then, when the other brother saw this, and he just fell down and begged forgiveness. And then Lord Chaitanya said, okay, I'll accept, but only if you promise not to do this nonsense anymore. In that way he initiated him on the spot, took their vow. Hare Krishna.
Sudevi says, I noticed the sound of birds in your background. Is it my imagination? It was nice, better than the conch shell of Maya sound of train.
Well, that's depending how you look at it. Those birds are seagulls. And I used to think that they are beautiful. They're white and they're so graceful flying to the sky. But when they talk, they kind of come out like a little bit of a cultured crow. You know, it's not like a songbird. A songbird's different. In Govardhan and other places I live, we have songbirds that used to come and wake us up every morning. But yeah, they are beautiful, and but sometimes when they get all together and start doing that call all at once, it sounds like a bunch of crows. No offense intended to the seagulls out there. Hare Krishna. But yeah, they're seagulls.
Something from Indranuja Das.
Mahari Bol Indranuja.
He says, Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your service. I just wonder if and when one day things will come back to normal. One day things will come back to normal. Will it be possible to visit you and participate in the live reading?
Well, when Krishna lets me know, I'll let you know. Because I don't know. And I don't think anybody knows. There's certain things that only Krishna knows. I'm very, very skeptical whether there will ever be a real normal. It will be a new normal, and what that means, we don't know yet. And we don't know when it will be. I don't think until they have an actual vaccine that can prevent this and other whatever they have that are and cure it, I don't think it'll ever be normal. And even then, there's so many activities and jobs that have been lost that may not come back. And how everything will adjust, it will adjust. It will adjust, but we don't know how. The main thing is to be very careful right now, because this is as I said in the beginning of the reading, this virus is not an ordinary virus. It's very deadly and very, even if it doesn't kill you, it can maim you and stay forever, it seems like, in some people. I just read an article the other day that a person got it and was a healthy person. In 3 days they were dead. That's serious stuff. And now we've heard that it's increasing again all over the world, because the tendency is to stop the lockdown and to start opening up, the economy and the businesses and the activities that people do have to enjoy themselves in this material world, try to. But it's causing the increase again. And mainly it's caused by a good percentage of the population that just won't wear masks, won't distance themselves, won't be careful. Very selfish. So, no one can say when there'll be an actual normal again. But it's okay because we're hearing and chanting every day, and so more time to hear and chant Hare Krishna for us.
Sudevi Dasi says, the new normal for me is more of hearing, and that's a great thing.
Yes.
Hearing of Krishna.
Yes, just as I was going to say it, you typed it. Hare Krishna.
And there's a question from Yadutama.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I have a question from last night's reading. In verse 28 commentary, Prabhupada writes, a person advanced in spiritual consciousness through the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra need not practice to develop forbearance separately, for a devotee develops all good qualities simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra regularly. Does this mean that our main focus should be on improving our chanting and not worry about external qualities? Could you
If you chant without offense, all good qualities will come into your heart and your activity without you separately endeavoring. But that doesn't mean that until you reach that stage, you should not make an effort to be forbearing and tolerant and humble and submissive and honest and clean, etc., etc., etc. We should always try to cultivate those qualities. But you can't get love of God just by those qualities. But if you chant purely and get love of God, if you chant without offense, you'll get love of God, and then automatically all those qualities will develop in you without separate endeavor. So yes, the stress should be on chanting without offense. But you should also know that chanting without offense doesn't mean just while you're chanting. It means during the day also. So avoid those offenses against the holy name at all times, even when you're not chanting, and you will get the good qualities that are there already in the heart. They awaken without separate endeavor because they are there in the heart. These are the qualities of the soul. The list of qualities we just read today, 16th chapter. Yesterday. We read the 16th chapter of the Gita, and the first first three verses are all about the qualities, the divine qualities that belong to people endowed with divine nature. That's the quality of the soul. Those are the qualities of the soul. The saying that Prabhupada sometimes invoked was, God helps those who help themselves. So, yes, we will get the qualities by chanting offenselessly, but we'll get to the offenseless chanting by trying to be proper and avoid the offenses against the holy name. You know, the austerities given in the Gita, austerities of the body, austerities of speech, austerities of the mind, they're to be practiced. Devotional service in practice means to try to practice acting like the Gita tells us to act. So both are true. You can't develop those good qualities fully and completely unless Lord chooses you, unless you please the Lord. So it's not even the endeavor to act austerely and be and develop those kinds of qualities and perform sacrifices and studying the Vedas, becoming vastly learned. None of these things can actually can satisfy Krishna completely. Only pure devotional service can please Krishna completely. And only when Krishna becomes pleased with you can these qualities automatically develop without separate endeavor. Hare Krishna.
Yudhitthama also commented, he says, I think we need to realize that none of this is normal in the material world.
I think we have to consider that none of this is normal in the material world.
This is in the context of the new normal from...
Oh, the new normal. Yeah. Correct. It's just that people are being forced to realize it. They're suffering all the time. Now they're just realizing it. That's right. It's true. Okay, we'll stop there. Thank you so much, everyone. It's almost 20 minutes after, just when we have our quota. Thank you so much. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night. Same place, same station, same time. Right here in the Haven. Hare Krishna.